Today, we are going to knock down some 700 level sentence corrections using an advanced verb technique that is incredibly simple and incredibly powerful. But before we do, I have a free gift for you. It's my guide to reading any GMAT passage in about a minute while increasing your comprehension and, most importantly, getting all the questions right. It's yours for free. You can download it in the description. Now, on to that verb technique. I promised you a simple, powerful, advanced verb strategy, and it is... The GMAT strongly prefers single word verbs. Yeah, I get it. Before you can trust it, you kind of have to understand why it works. This is why it works. The GMAT values efficiency over almost anything else in its sentences. And let's see how efficient single word verbs are. Let's say you're talking about something in the past tense. You don't need two verbs in order to do that. You can do that with a single word verb. Kicked, studied, developed, anticipated, fluctuated, covered, offered. The very same thing is true in the present tense. You don't need two verbs to talk about things in the present tense. You can do it with a single verb. Ski, anticipate, study, kick. And guess what? Most of the sentences that you encounter on the GMAT will either be in the past tense or in the present tense. So most of the time, single word verbs are going to be the way to go. Sometimes life isn't so simple that things just happen in the past or just happen in the present. Sometimes things start out in the past and then continue to the present, or sometimes things start out way in the past and keep going in the past. Anytime an action is ongoing, we call that a time shift, and multiple word verbs are just fine when you need to describe a time shift. For example, I have known her since high school. Okay, well, way back when in high school I knew her, and I still know her. That's a time shift, and that multiple verb, have known, is just fine. She has been training since July. Way back in July she started training. Apparently she still is, so we're fine with the multiple word verbs, have been training. Fishing volumes have been reduced since last year. Last year the volumes went down and they are still down. That's a time shift, so we're okay with the multiple word verbs. So the rule is that we strongly prefer single word verbs except when we have a time shift. And that simple rule is super powerful. Let's do some examples so that you can see for yourself. Okay, take a second, read this example, and I think what you're going to say to yourself is, wow, this is a pretty complicated example. And you're right, there's a lot going on here. But using our verb rule, we're going to make very short work of this. So the first thing we see is we've got the first trenches that were cut. We don't like the double verb were cut. We would much prefer the word cut. And more to the point, we know that the GMAT prefers the single word verb cut. So A makes that mistake, so we don't like that, and A turns around and makes another mistake later on in the sentence when it says that were arising. Oh my gosh, twice A uses way too many verbs. A is definitely out. There's no way it's right. B says that were cut. We don't like that. C is getting worse. Having been cut. Oh my gosh, we're shoving even more words into the verb construction. D and E both use the single verb cut. We like that. The GMAT likes that. Unless there's something seriously wrong with answer choices D and E, one of these is going to be the right choice, and it's certainly the place that we're going to start. Okay, between D and E, which do we like better? Well, D starts making some mistakes. D uses arising simultaneously. We don't like that. It's weak. Arising actually is not a verb. It's called a gerund. We like strong single word verbs like arose simultaneously. So we prefer that. D starts to make some more mistakes too. D uses the word yields, which is only present tense. That's not the meaning of the sentence. This evidence was yielding before and continues to yield. That's actually a time shift. So have yielded we're okay with, and we certainly need to capture the idea that the evidence was yielding stuff in the past. There's one more issue with D that's really an idiom thing. Strong evidence of is not correct. We have to use strong evidence that. Okay, so all these things taken together, we can get to answer choice E pretty quickly. And notice what our verb rule did. It immediately narrowed us down to just 2 of the 5 choices, and then we were able to move very quickly. Okay, nice job. Okay, take a look at example number 2, and then we're going to come back and diagnose it with our verb rule. Okay, so the first thing that we notice that we don't like, and more importantly, we know that GMAT doesn't like, is that double verb were announced. So A is out. B gets even worse. B has which are to cut and also still uses were announced. C uses were announced, but check out D and E. They both use executive announced. We love that construction. The subject of the sentence followed immediately by a single active verb. Unless there is something seriously wrong with answer choices D or E, one of these two is going to be the correct answer choice. So which one do we like better? Well, E starts making some mistakes. E starts saying that are to cut. That's just awkward. It's just too many words. You can do the very, very same thing, express the same thing, simply by using the phrase to cut. And remember, the GMAT values efficiency over almost anything else. So we like answer choice D. Now you can certainly analyze this sentence in a whole bunch of different ways. You can say, well, I looked at it as passive verb constructions and all that. Yeah, you certainly can. But the beauty of looking at it as we prefer single verbs versus we don't like double verbs is it allows you to cut through all of the clutter very quickly, focus your analysis almost immediately on the answer choices that are probably going to be right. Okay, let's take a look at example 3, and as we're reading through it, we immediately spot this double verb was informed. We hate that. We know that GMAT hates that. A is going to be out. But check out B. B has the government informed. We have the subject of the sentence followed immediately by a single active verb. We love that. C has the government has been informing. Oh my gosh, it's getting even worse. D has was given. E has was given. The only answer choice that has the subject followed immediately by a single verb is answer choice B, and that's the correct answer. And yes, I know there are lots of different ways to analyze the sentence. There always are. I know there are modifier issues in this thing, but that's not the point. The point is you want a rule that can immediately help you identify what the likely correct answers are. This is all about focusing your time and energy most efficiently to move through these questions really quickly. So this rule, the GMAT strongly prefers single word verbs unless there's a time shift, is really powerful. Will this one rule always get you to the right exact answer every time? Well, it's the GMAT. No one rule will do that. But what it will do is it will very quickly cut through the clutter and focus you on the answer choices that are probably going to be right. And sentence correction is all about speed and priority. You cannot allow yourself to get just paralyzed by endless grammatical analysis. You have to move very, very quickly through the answer choices, and this rule is a great, great friend of yours when you're trying to do that. Okay, great job. Now, if you found this video helpful, please remember to hit like or subscribe. That helps us out a lot. And don't forget about your free gift, my guide to reading any GMAT passage in about a minute while increasing your comprehension and getting all the questions right. You can download it right in the description. Okay, great job. We'll see you next time.